Before we begin, I would like to advertise my books Above Heaven and Dance of Frozen Death. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider giving them a read. Links in the description. Now, on with the video.
Yep, watch me now. Here I go. It's easier than pie.
He can fly! He can fly!
If there's one thing that I will always remember about Tears of the Kingdom, it will be a moment from the first week I played it. My wife and I were settling in one evening. She asked me if I wanted to play because she loves watching Zelda but doesn't want the stress of playing it. 20 minutes later, she looked down at her phone for 5 seconds. Her head whips up when I say, "Oh, I died." She erupts with laughter. "What happened? You were fine 5 seconds ago. Why are you on fire?" I'm love of storytelling and I have a problem. I am addicted to Tears of the Kingdom. And not just playing it, I love watching videos of all the little things that people discover and do. I love seeing what odd machines people can make. I love comparing stories with everyone about what I experienced in the game. There was even a point where a friend casually mentioned that the Master Sword could be found on the Light Dragon, and it blew my mind. There's so much in this game, and everything seems to have dozens of different solutions to it. No one single person has the exact same experience with any aspect of this massive game. In fact, I probably chose the path of most resistance almost every single time it was available.
Well, you know what? I am not going to give up that easy. I'm going to make this way harder than it needs to be.
Normally, my top priority with everything is the intended story behind it, whether it be in games, books, movies, shows, comics, or any other form of entertainment. I'm a stickler for the details. Even with the older Legend of Zelda games, I like comparing how each game feels different from each other and the stories told before. That was true with Breath of the Wild as well. I cannot, however, say the same thing with Tears of the Kingdom. From the start, I didn't really care about the slow walking and talking, the lore, the characters. Nope, I didn't care about any of that. All I cared about was getting out to the meat of the matter. I wanted to start exploring. I wanted to see the Sky Islands, how Hyrule changed, and eventually see what the depths were like. The story didn't really matter to me at all. I wanted to explore and share stories. Saving Hyrule was not my top priority. It barely even crossed my mind. I wanted to have fun and share my experiences with other people. I don't see myself wanting to put the pieces of the game story together until the very end, or maybe even until my second playthrough. And this is odd for me. Even with Elden Ring, I took a deep dive into the lore, but nope, not with Tears of the Kingdom. Right now, all I care about is the individual tales that I make for myself and all of the other stories that other people are sharing with me. This experience is more about connecting with people than most multiplayer games that I have touched so far in my life.
Look what we made.
I would say that this was unprecedented, but this is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, plus Elden Ring came out last year. Not to mention that the last season of Better Call Saul came out last year too. They're all experiences where I had great conversations with people about these beautiful pieces of entertainment. It reminds me of my younger days where I would meet up with several different friends to talk about The Walking Dead or Breaking Bad or whatever we were playing at the time. It's the infamous water cooler talk, except without the water cooler, and said a bunch of people meeting up to talk about their favorite games and shows over lunch. And the beautiful thing about this is that I think that Tears of the Kingdom discussions will continue for a long time, just like how Elden Ring consumed over half of last year, because people are still focusing on the machines people can make, the mechanics, and the exploits. We haven't even gotten to the point where people are talking about the story overall, the characters, or the lore, because if you know anything about Legend of Zelda, it has a complicated lore that fans love to dive into.
Sylvia, this name keeps coming up over and over again. Every day, Pepe's mail's getting sent back to me. Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. I look in the mail, well, this whole box is Pepe Sylvia!
It's not like every single Legend of Zelda game is a complicated tale. Link sets out to save Princess Zelda and defeat Ganondorf, about 80% of the time. Maybe that's why people like Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening so much. Those ones are different. There's a little bit more gray in there, a little bit more darkness to it all. But for the most part, the entire timeline of Legend of Zelda is the battle between good and evil. It doesn't get all that complicated. Most of the complication comes from the branching timelines based on who wins the various battles. battles, and plot points within Tears of the Kingdom might make things even more complicated with an entire time travel plot occurring. Plus, there's the Hyrule Warriors alternate timeline Breath of the Wild. Nintendo is just going nuts with this stuff, and I find it fascinating that this new focus comes entirely from games about how Link keeps losing and failing. Tears of the Kingdom is the second tale in a row where the heroes lose at the very start, yet they grow and overcome. I wonder what Nintendo is trying to say here.
It means you have no skills and you're a loser!
There isn't a bigger winner out there right now than Tears of the Kingdom. Fans and critics love it. 10 million copies sold in the first 3 days. And the interesting thing is that Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel in every single sense of the word. It expands and slightly alters the Breath of the Wild map. Combat is the same, almost all of the mechanics are still there. The story is a direct sequel of what happened in Breath of the Wild. It took everything great from the start and expanded on it to make it even better, just like every single sequel should. It's the Two Towers to the Fellowship of the Rings. It's Better Call Saul to Breaking Bad. It's The Empire Strikes Back to The New Hope. Nintendo doubled down on Breath of the Wild, which is actually a change of pace for them. There are a lot of terrible things you could say about Nintendo, but their biggest games are always good and are constantly evolving. The 3D Marios, Zelda, Kirby, Metroid is back, and those are full of constant alterations. They have their safe franchises, but the transition from the GameCube to the Wii, to the Wii U, to the Switch demonstrates that Nintendo as a company is always trying to stay ahead of its audience, except when it comes to Pokemon. That franchise just keeps being what it always has been.
Walk out the door, you see someone that you know and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Personally, I'd be grateful if Nintendo went on a sequel trend for a little while at least. Mario Odyssey 2, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands 2, Metroid Dread 2, bring back Star Fox. All of this reminds me of Like a Dragon. Those games come out almost every other year, it seems like. They reuse assets and build on the mechanics, gameplay, and combat that came before. But the innovation in writing keeps it fresh. If the sequels keep building and improving on the originals, I'm not going to complain if they reuse what came before. In fact, I'd prefer it if everything wasn't thrown away. Book series like the Stormlight Archive don't throw away past novels. Better Call Saul was built on Breaking Bad. The best movie sequels take what was good about the original film and make it even better. That's the whole point, and it rewards the audience for their investment in the franchise. We live in an era of reboots, but I get a sense that everyone is sick of needing to reinvest into old piece of media that throws away everything that came before. People love learning and remembering the lore. I think large companies forget that.
The itchy and scratchy CD-ROM. Is there a way to get out of the dungeon without using the wizard key?
What the hell are you talking about?
While I think that Tears of the Kingdom is a marvel, I know that it's not flawless. It doubled down on breakable weapons, but I like the new fuse system, so whatever. Also, the game might be a bit too long and overwhelming for newcomers. I'm also constantly surprised that my Switch doesn't melt whenever the game is running. Plus, I think the use of this time travel storyline in these games is going to turn sour real quick if they're not careful. Trust me, I know about writing time travel. It's either a grand slam or a strikeout. But at the end of the day, Tears of the Kingdom might end up being the greatest story in 2023. What else could capture the imaginations of fans and cause such discourse? I wonder how long it will stick around, because there really isn't much this year that's going to rival it, or next year, or even the year after that, now that I think about it. In fact, I think other game developers are probably crying right about now, and other media in general might want to take a note or two, because there's so much praise for this masterpiece, and I look forward to continuing the ongoing story with everyone for a long time. But what do you think? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to start a discussion with you, and thank you so much for watching. Please consider reading my books Above Heaven, Dance of Frozen Death, and Vows of Blood and Honor, which will be released in September. I appreciate you. Do not despair.